If there's one thing an evil genius such as myself knows anything about, it's monsters. Biologically created monsters. Maybe even monsters in the poetical sense, but monsters nonetheless. And our franchise is filled with them. So in the spirit of the Halloween season, let us celebrate together by counting down the 10 best, in my opinion. After all, I did help create most of them. Number 10. The Chimera. Starting off simple but sweet, the Chimera. Taking the idea of Jeff Goldblum's final terrifying evolution in the movie The Fly and throwing you in a room with several of those, the Chimera takes your harmless housefly and turns it into the stuff of nightmares. The noise they make, the way their bodies fly apart when you attack them, how they literally come out of the walls. A solid monster for a solid beginning to our spooktacular countdown. Number 9. Bandersnatch. At first, you have to do a double take on these interesting creatures before you really appreciate the genius behind them. Sort of a combination of a giant blob with legs mixed with the arm of a superhuman. Oh, and that arm just so happens to have sharp claws. This monster's definitely one that's been underappreciated, and one you never looked forward to running into on your perilous escape from Rockford Island as Chris's little sister. You think you've escaped them, you've climbed a staircase and are safe on another floor? Please, you're merely postponing the inevitable. Number 8. The Crips and Heads. Yes, we all knew the zombies would be here somewhere, but you know me, I always take it one step further, and I was reminded of the delicious side effect of the T-virus. Let an undead alone for too long and he'll evolve to the next stage towards becoming a licker. In this case, sprouting razor-sharp claws, skin turning crimson red, and gaining great running speed. Behold the Crimson Head. Easily the best idea for a monster created for the sole purpose of separating the chaff from the wheat, and seeing which players actually took the time to read the documents found around the mansion, and who was in it just for the Resident Evil 5 style boom fiesta. You know what I mean. Number 7. The Leachman. Just about anywhere you look, whenever you think Resident Evil 0, you almost always find some leeches strewn about. Simple fact, leeches are creepy, and to think a monster could exist that is basically the Slender Man if he was made out of leeches, now that gives me the giblies. Throughout the survival horror adventure with Billy and Rebecca, you never looked forward to what lied around the corner. Since this was a prequel, we had no clue what to expect in. And the Leachmen were the worst, hard to put down, and with a creepy, slinking slither. These things are not to be trifled with. Yuck. Number 6. Tyrant. A creature who has been quite forgotten over the years, and it's a shame. After all, it was my first success with the T-virus, the ultimate life form, Tyrant. With the DNA of a special rare breed of test subject, the regenerative powers of the T-virus, and the surgically implanted heart of a rhinoceros to maintain this insane power. Yes, that's actually true. The Tyrant is one monster that seems all but invincible, unless of course you have a trusty rocket launcher lying around. Fast, hard to escape, and of course that long giant talon arm, and you've got one memorable monster. Oh, and of course, it's the monster that sort of killed me. Moving on! Number 5. Salazar's right hand. Let's just imagine for a minute that Alien vs. Predator Requiem never happened. What do you think a hybrid of the Xenomorph and the Predator would look like? Here's an idea you might actually like. The right-hand servant of Ramon Salazar. Though he has no name technically, he doesn't need one. All you need to know is run. Just run. In one of the best boss battles in Resident Evil 4, you had a blend of scares, spooky atmosphere, and clever boss takedowns thanks to randomly placed CO2 tanks. Now was Leon's chance to channel the Terminator. Hasta la vista, baby. Number 4. Alexia Ashford. Ever wish you had more than one boss fight with Poison Ivy in the Batman Arkham games? Well, in Code Veronica, you sort of had your wish granted. Alexia Ashford. Sure, she was a ripoff of the vine-covered villainess, but it didn't matter. Any creature imposing enough to make me shocked is good enough for this list. With a sickeningly delicious design, control over giant vines, and flammable blood which she hurls at you in spurts, and you've got yourself a ripoff you'd be happy to take over the original any day. Seriously, Poison Ivy wishes she could hurl her blood at people as a weapon. Actually that's pretty gross, so probably not. Moving right along. Number 3. You probably have the final 3 monsters figured out. And why not? Iconic is iconic no matter what anyone says. And in the case of my old colleague and best friend, William Birkin, he had iconic in spades. Anywhere from the tragedy of slowly watching its human form deteriorate into a beast, to that freaking awesome giant eyeball in his shoulder, to every incarnation looking more and more shocking and unbelievable, William Birkin remains a monster worthy of a lot more attention. People always obsessed with zombies and hunters. The man, the myth, the legend. And no, not Scott Sterling. William Birkin was here to stay, and prove there was more than just zombies and hunters. Speaking of which... Number 2. Name me one monster who was cool enough to not only have his own terrifying entrance to the franchise, but also was so beloved, it's a monster that's remained untouched and has stayed intact even to this day in the recent Resident Evil games. Yeah, I didn't think so. There's only one, and he's the Hunter. Part reptile, part humanoid, and part splicing experiment, the Hunter is everything you love to hate in a horror game. Fast, hard to get a hit on, makes creepy sounds, and very lethal. Up until the Hunter, practically every monster in the Arclay Mansion gave you at least one extra hit before you died. But with the Hunters, you better watch out for that leaping swipe, or else you get your head taken clean off, without standing a chance. At a moment in the game where ammo and health was low, it was the perfect moment to introduce you to such a freak of nature, one that's just about the best monster ever created in Resident Evil. Well, almost. Number 1. At first, we were tied with Nemesis for this spot, but in the end, Nemesis has always had the spotlight in the Resident Evil world, and I think it's high time someone else wore the crown for one Halloween season. And that monster, my friends, is Lisa Trevor. Oh yes, the most terrifying, mysterious, creepy, and deliciously designed beast of all time in the realm of Resident Evil. You name it, she's got it. Tentacles? Check. Sickening moaning noises? Check. Chains? Check. Immortal? Double check. Throw on that cake the icing that is literally being covered in the skin and faces of people she murdered, and you've got yourself a freak worthy of number 1. Seriously, she's covered in human faces. How do you top that? She was impossible to kill. Well, except by yours truly, of course. And her backstory was the stuff of tragic nightmares. Lisa Trevor was not the kind of little girl you give a hug, nor was she the kind you'd think to even fight at all. The only solution to encountering her was to run and hide. Seriously, until Umbrella Chronicles, Lisa was the only monster in the franchise that never died, and thus remains the only monster capable of giving Nemesis a run for his money. Nemesis says stars, but what does Lisa say? Yeah, check and mate. From all of us here in the Umbrella Corporation Arizona Hive, we wish you a happy Halloween. Drive safely, drink responsibly, and party like there's no tomorrow. After all, there might not be a tomorrow if the apocalypse awaits us, but concerns like that can wait. At least, until we meet again.
Be a good girl and stay dead this time.